Hello, fourth grade. Today we're going to be taking a little bit of a different approach to division because instead of simply solving the problems, we're actually going to be considering the remainders. And here's something that I want you to know. Remainders are not always ignored. In fact, sometimes remainders are part of the answer, or they could even be the answer altogether. So the first thing that I'd like you to do is, knowing that we don't want to ignore remainders, we have a problem here in front of you. I would like you to pause this, solve the problem, and then we'll go over it together. Okay, so hopefully you guys found this problem as easy as I did. So if we look at this, we're saying that we have 57 pencils, and they come in packages of 6. And we would want to know, or we've got 57 fourth graders, and what we want to do is we want to buy every fourth grader a pencil. Well, if they come in packages of 6, how many packages would we need to buy? Well, let's hear. 6 times what is going to get us closest to 57? 9. 6 times 9 is going to be 54. If we know our facts, we found that incredibly easy, didn't we? That's going to be a 3. So here's what I'd like you to think about, friends. Does 9 remainder 3 work? Like, would you go up to Mr. Neville and say, we need to buy 9 remainder 3 boxes of pencils? Nope, we tell him we need to actually buy 10 boxes of pencils. We'll have some pencils left over, but that's fine. If we don't take this remainder and round up, what that means is that 3 students won't get pencils at all. And that wouldn't feel very fair. So we'd need to make sure that we round up. Now what I'd like you guys to do is please open up your textbooks to page 117. And I'd like you to pay attention to, these problems. Here is what this is saying. This problem, these problems all have, now how come I can't move this around? So we're going to be taking a look at this page, and as you can see, you can't really see it because I kind of cut it off. Sorry about that. But what this is basically saying is we have a problem of 9 divided by 4. And the answer is obviously 2 remainder 1. So the division problem, 9 divided by 4 equals 2 remainder 1, works for every single one of these story problems. However, the answer is going to be different in every single one of these problems because it's asking us to do something different with the remainders. So let's spend some time reading this page together and looking at the different ways that we can use remainders. So on this first one, Thomas has 1 9-foot pine board. He needs to make 4-foot shelves for his books. How many shelves can he cut? Well, obviously he can cut 2 shelves. So the answer, 2 shelves, he can cut 2 shelves, would be the answer, in which case we would ignore the remainder because we wouldn't say he can cut 2 remainder 1 shelves. That wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. So we'd actually, in this type of a problem, ignore the remainder. So sometimes the remainders are ignored or they're simply not part of the question. Sometimes, and this one right here is B, is an awful lot like the one with a principal that we just did, where what we would have to do is actually round up to get the answers. This one's saying 9 students are going to go on a field trip. Parents have offered to drive. If each parent can drive 4 students, how many parents need to drive? Well, if we said 2 parents, then only 8 students get to go. Not super fair. So we'd actually have to have 3 parents drive instead of 2. We would need to round up. Okay? So sometimes the remainders, if there is a remainder, we would need to round up. Sometimes the remainder becomes a fractional part of the answer. Let's look at C. It's saying one Monday, Kim brought 9 apples to school. She shared them equally among herself and 3 friends, meaning she's sharing 9 apples with 4 friends. How many apples did each person get? Well, everybody will get 2, but then they're going to have 1 apple left over. What could they do? Well, they could easily make that fair shares, and they could cut that apple into 4 equal pieces. So everybody would get 2 whole apples and then a fourth of another apple. So sometimes our remainders will actually become a fractional part of the answer. Now let's look at D. When we're talking about money, our remainder could become a decimal point. So, for example, Raul bought 4 toy cars for $9. Each car cost the same amount. How much did each car cost? Well, if it's 2 remainder 1, that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. But that 1 is actually a quarter of a dollar. So we would say that is $2.25. So that is how we would turn, or like 1/4 left over is always a quarter, right? So that's where we would make the remainder could actually be a decimal part of the answer. And then here, the remainder is the only part needed to answer the questions. So here it's saying 9 students have signed up to run a relay race. If each relay team can have 4 runners, how many students cannot run in the race? Well, in this case, the remainder actually becomes the answer, How many kids can't run? Well, 1 student cannot run in the race. So here is what I want you guys to remember. Depending on the problem, sometimes we're going to ignore the remainder. Sometimes the remainder is going to cause us to round up our answer. Sometimes a remainder could be a fraction or a decimal. And sometimes the remainder is actually the answer. So there you go, friends. Remember what we know about story problems. We're always going to read them, think about them, reread them, and remember that remainder can be a little tricky. So think well and work hard. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.